Debs.
Law, you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you doing? How's your hips?
How's my hips? Well, they're not like Shakira's, let's put it that way. Yeah, they're getting there softly. I mean, the things that happen when you don't think and bend up to pick a toilet roll up, right? Who would have known that I wouldn't have been able to have stood up?
I reckon it's all those years of balancing a baby and a toddler on your hips. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, Laura. And then it's like, what the hell? It's a sure sign you're getting old, isn't it, when your hips go?
It certainly is. It certainly is. And this goes out to anyone who's thinking, God, I'm starting to feel the years of my experience now. And welcome to our fourth in our 4-part focus looking at working parents. How do you make the balance work? And even 30 odd years on, Debs, there's still the price to pay from standing there with a toddler on your hip as you're kind of trying to juggle doing some work whilst placating a toddler. And we've had some incredible bits of feedback and voice notes, haven't we, from some of our wonderful people about what goes on behind the scenes to make that balance work. What have been some standout moments so far from this series, Debs, for you?
Oh, I think there's been some common themes, and one of them we're obviously going to talk about today. But I think also that everybody is an individual. I think that's what stood out, and don't assume that everybody needs the same as everybody else. So having a conversation, finding out what that individual might need from you as their manager, team leader, just colleague. I think that's the message that's come out. So, and ask what they want. Don't assume that they want this or that. And then a bit around the silence when people go back into the baby is here and the family disappear and the friends, and it becomes oh, okay, what about me now? And it's really, it's like that transition period before you think, I'm now on my own. What do I do? So it's been really cool. And people, I mean, as we know, we've heard from girlies and boys, mums and dads, and it's just been fascinating to hear the similarities to some extent as well. And even, a dad's confidence can go as a result of having a newborn, or even the second or third, as one of our guests had got 3 children. So it was really fascinating. It's been really good. Yeah.
And of course, what connects us both so deeply with this is one of your passion areas of your work is that parent coaching, and being able to support so many people over the years who work in organisations that, are wanting to support people on the departure and the return from having a child.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's so important, and it's sometimes a topic that gets overlooked. And I think you've got so much talent in, those that are becoming parents, that we sometimes underestimate that just because they might be away for a year or 6 months or however long, each of them decide to take, that talent doesn't disappear. It's there. It just gets enhanced. And I think that, they are an untapped group of individuals that are so clever, smart, have a different outlook because they're having to be responsible for a little person. And I just think, we sometimes underestimate what they bring to the party.
Which is why we thought the cherry on the cake would be or icing on the cake would be, or the Peppa Pig figurine on the cake.
Yeah. Or the Colin the Caterpillar, whatever it is.
That you've pretended to make yourself and then, kind of stuck candles in, is to end our 4-part focus from a couple of different perspectives. And this one is all about confidence and self-belief. So if there is, for example, I was speaking with someone only today who had a bit of an emotional moment, really, when they realised that the impact that having kids had on them and the toll it had taken in order to make all that happen, all the other bits and bobs that go on, and that sudden realisation of, actually, I feel like it's now my time in my career to step up, step out, put myself first. So that kind of working parent is not just for the newborn age. It also, I think there are some real powerful moments when people go, actually, I'm out of that child rearing phase now. What's left for me? I've got years in the tank of work. What does that leave for me? Because either I have to or I want to work. What does that mean for me? So that confidence and self-belief is I know it's a universal thing. So Debs, from your perspective, what is it about becoming a parent that means that confidence can often feel quite different to someone?
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting one, because what we find out is that we start to compare ourselves maybe with other people, and also our previous version of ourselves, because we sometimes think, I was that person that had more sleep and had lots more flexibility and capacity and time, and I used to be better at this than I was, so it sort of knocks us. And I just think we have to reframe that to say, okay, you're still the same person. Okay, you might have shifted slightly, but we have to look at what does that mean when we sort of start to dip in confidence, because we're looking at capacity versus our capability. As we said, our capability is still good. It's in fact enhanced. We have that identity shift, which we have been talking about, and then that transition moment, and then how do we adapt, as you were saying. And I think the question I always ask people is, how do I get back to who I was, is the one I get asked sometimes. And I reframed that for them and said, how do I become confident in who I am now? Because that's the bit, because if you think about the version of you, what were you proud of before babies came along, or children, whether you've adopted them, whether you're foster caring for people, they're your own. There's lots of different ways of raising children. I think there's a little bit about, what are you good at? What would you have been proud about before that? Because that's still within you. And that's the thing. People as a parent say, but before I was a parent, this is how I was. And you just go, stop the comparison to how you were. This is how you are now. So, and you can see there's so much opportunity now to compare ourselves with others. Social media, everybody looks like they're having a fab time and they're raising their babies really well, or their young children, depending. But what we have to watch is we're not falling in that trap of comparing ourselves to somebody else's highlight reel, or, on a tired day to somebody else's best day, because it's not a true reflection. And therefore that can knock our confidence in, I'm not doing a good job, or I'm rubbish at this, I used to be, all of that negative talk, because it can impact on, the milestones is a big one, actually. My child isn't progressing the same as this child. And so even then we're comparing against other mothers and fathers in the group. Different parenting styles, I don't do that. I don't follow let them cry for 10 minutes and then go and put them down, then go back. There are so many things that people get confused about. And therefore we sort of say, come from a place of curiosity, as well. So why am I not like them? Well, you're not, because you're you. And therefore curious, well, what is it that I actually admire about what that person's doing? And is there something that I could maybe adopt or adapt so that I can give it a go, rather than beat myself up because I feel like I'm rubbish? But then we don't know the whole story.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the other thing. We have no idea of their whole story. We only see little snippets, whether it's going along to a group or going in for a kit day even, and you might be mixing with the other mums who've already been in work. I think also you think, oh my God, they look so confident now. I don't know if I can. And therefore that overthinking starts to happen. And that doesn't help at all. It's like, thinking about when have I, maybe as a listener to this, is when have I fallen into that trap of, saying I'm rubbish, or I'm no good at this, or I was better at that before. Get out of that, because you are still amazing. And part of the work we do is rebuilding that self-belief within them.
Do you know what you've made me remember? So a dear friend of mine, she'd been a lifelong nanny. So she'd always been in the industry of childcare. And she'd worked as a night nanny, a sleep consultant, and then she went on to have her own baby. And I remember her coming back and saying to me, actually, it was a really interesting midwife meeting I've just had, because now I know you run a risk of postnatal depression. There is a higher risk of postnatal depression for people that consider themselves qualified and expert in childcare, because the standards and expectations you set yourself. And I know postnatal depression is a big and complex topic, but that really did make me think about, in our professional persona, I imagine it must be a challenge if you're a project manager and you're finding it a struggle to organise getting out the door to even make it to a certain place at 8:15 in the morning, like that's going to hit hard no matter what kind of background that you've got. But if part of your professional status and sense of achievement is based on organising people, it kind of hurts double the amount when you're finding yourself that you're there in an environment where you're not being able to adhere to your previous professional standards, but you can't be professional about your personal life, Debs.
No.
As you reminded me when I was going through various scrapes, however many years ago, you cannot be professional about your personal life, because that is why you've got these two different personas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it's really important, that self-belief, remembering what, you know, who you are, what you're capable of. And one of the things I sometimes get the parents to do is to create their own look how far I've come list, because, you know, what have I handled this year that maybe would have overwhelmed me previously. So it's always looking at what have I done? What have I overcome? What have I achieved? So it's never forgetting those little moments where you did deal with something really, really well. So that look how far I've come list can really help people build their confidence again. And it showcases that and proof and evidence that, yeah, I can actually, and celebrating those little tiny wins that you have. That again, we'd say, you know, if we did a gale, like our original mantra around, if I did a gale every day, which is what am I grateful for, what I've achieved, accomplished, what have I improved upon, what am I learned, something like that can also really just check in with yourself to go, no, actually, even though my child threw up at me, I still managed to get out the door clean looking. I'm really grateful for that. Or the washing machine, because it's on all the time. But it's asking yourself those questions, you know, what went well? How did I handle that? And what am I really proud of in that moment? Because we are not all the same. And this is why the self-belief has to come back, because it's about you. So what is it that helps you feel like you more, so that you can actually carry all the roles that you do carry? And it's okay, because I'm really good at that and I have done it. But that's the one that disappears, I think, the confidence, that reminding yourself of just what you have achieved sometimes just goes out the window. And then I think the other thing we always ask parents to do is say, so what does success look like for you right now? Because they might have had horrendous, or, you know, as you said, they've gone back into work, they're in their first week and suddenly they get a call from the nanny or the nursery or wherever, or their mum-in-laws, whatever it might be. And then it's like, oh, okay, panic, you know, therefore I can't be. And then the confidence drops because and then we question, maybe I didn't set them up well. Maybe I didn't tell them about this. Maybe I did that. What if I forgot that? And it just creates absolute chaos in our heads. And I think, as you said, we don't have to prove ourselves. As you know, like you mentioned, we don't have to prove ourselves to anyone else. We just have to start trusting ourselves that instinctively we do know what's right. And I think we mentioned this on one of our pods, where there's so many books out there that you can read about parenting. But and if it's not working to cry, leave them, let them cry until they sleep, and that's not working for you, then that's not working for you. So, you know, I think that's what it is. It's, asking yourself, what is the thing that's helped me rebuild my confidence as a parent? And I think we had a few clips on that, actually, from memory, of a couple of people that recognise that their children might be older now, but they're seeing how they're turning out. And that must be, that's such an amazing thing to see how they've turned out, because of what you'd put in. But at the time, I think we forget that.
You do. You're playing the long game here. You're playing the long game. Yeah. And sometimes there's a card I gave my mum, which is only until you go on and have your own daughter, you realise what a challenge you were as her daughter, way back then, and it's not until you kind of think, oh God, this is what it actually sort of took. Do you have any recognition, like when people become managers and then they turn around and go, oh my goodness, now I understand why managers found it a challenge to communicate, because there's so many things that managers have to do. So let's hear from some of those clips, Debs, because I think it's always so inspiring to hear voices from a range of experience and backgrounds talking about what it means from a confidence and self-belief perspective.
One part of myself that I lost for a while was confidence. I definitely felt overwhelmed as a mom and having to learn all these new skills, and don't even get me started on the sleep deprivation. It is so for real. And postpartum and just all the things, your body changing, your mind, your feelings, your hormones, your priorities. And I know that in the beginning I felt unstable in the sense of I didn't know what I was doing with this little baby, and I worried about so many things. And that level of uncertainty and learning something new kind of translated into my overall confidence of myself. And so that was something that I lost for a while and had to kind of rebuild, because when you feel like you don't know what you're doing in one part of your life, it's hard to remember that you know what you're doing in other parts. And so that was something I had to learn.
So one part of myself which I lost for a while was definitely my identity. I felt like prior to becoming a mother, I was so focused on my career and I felt like I knew who I was and what I wanted to achieve. As soon as the world of motherhood arrived, I completely lost that. And I think it was also due to the fact that I was sleep deprived. I definitely found it difficult to balance motherhood as well as my professional career. And there was always that guilt, that mum guilt, which crept up, whether or not that was being away from my children, or whether or not I felt like I wasn't giving myself fully into my work. It was always a difficult balancing act. And for me, that sense of identity was really taken away, or it was shaken up in ways I didn't expect. But now I'm here and I feel like I've more grounded. I've definitely found that identity again.
Do you feel like you've gained it, or?
I think it's made me more complete. It's definitely, motherhood's definitely completed me, but it just took a while to arrive there. And I think that's something that no one ever prepares you for.
One part that I lost for a while was my confidence in my own ability. After I took a few years out of the working world altogether to raise 2 small children, when I returned to the working world, it was hard to remember that I hadn't lost all of the skills, knowledge and experience that I'd gained before. And in fact, I'd only enhanced some of those skills having been at home with 2 small children all day. So I felt like I had lost confidence and faith in what I could bring to the table.
I mean, Debs, it's just so reassuring, I think, isn't it? When you're kind of going through one of these life-changing things. And what I was going to say to you when you mentioned that great tip about look how far I've come list. I mean, that's useful for handling any big life-changing event to get yourself back into whatever the new game is, not just for working parents, and that's just one of life's big moments, but there'll be many others that people are navigating. And I love that idea of look how far I've come list as a way to bolster yourself and remind yourself of what you have done.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I think it sort of also links in, because that brings confidence into the world of work. So that's why when we think about getting feedback, it's not just the developmental feedback, but it's also the motivational feedback. It's like, oh my God, that was an amazing job you did there. We all need to hear that, because that then fuels our self-belief even more, gives us confidence to do even more. And I think that sometimes when parents come out of the space of work where they might have had that, suddenly they haven't. And they feel the weight is on their shoulders. So if they're not hearing, oh my God, you're doing an amazing job, how are you still standing after, not having any hours sleep, but you're amazing. When do they hear that? And I think that's the one that when we're working with the parents, we check in with them and they do their own, skills audit, and they do their smile files as a reminder that they have done it. And because nobody sort of is there to watch it either. No. That's the other
You might be the only witness who knew what challenges you conquered at 2 a.m. in the morning. You might be the only person that knows that you handled this and that. And because you're, your young child, well, they're never going to see it, and they're certainly never going to thank you for it.
They're not going to suddenly turn around. You did a great job, Mum. Or Dad, you're amazing. Then keep doing that for me. They're never going to say that.
No, so you've got to look in the mirror and go, you're doing a good job, you're doing a good job. Deb, someone brought into, it was only today actually when I was running a confidence session, and it wasn't about working parents, but it was kind of linked to the scenario I gave of someone who could just recognise, actually, I want to level up my career now because that part of my that's sort of not so much on my radar anymore, that child rearing. And one of the things this person was saying is they were continuously referencing, but other people in my team are really articulate and good at talking about all this corporate stuff. I'm just not as good as communicating as they are. And then you could see sort of other delegates who work alongside this person going, what? You're great. So what's your take when someone seems to almost use other people's successes as evidence that you're failing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the comparison piece. And because they haven't maybe been around that for a while, and they might have been, immersed in, I don't know, some of the, the baby books or the reading books or the whatever. I can't remember what half of them were. The caterpillar one was Carl's favourite, I think. I can't remember what the title was. It's so long ago. But you used to read that to him, and you think, well, okay. And then I've suddenly got to read a paper, something at work, and so therefore it's like I'm questioning myself, because I have seen people say I've got baby brain. I go, no, you haven't. It's just a full up brain. So let's unpack it and see what you are doing and planning, because you were good at planning and using the skills that they've got. But we sometimes fall into that trap of going, I'm not good enough. But actually that is such a myth, because you're just bloody fantastic.
Debs, right. You've just taken me a trip down memory lane. I've forgotten about this. I think maybe I'd sort of conveniently forgotten it. I remember I was walking around the outside of a building with stakeholders, like key clients from one building to another. And I just found myself going, oh, it's a big green tractor. Because
I love that, though.
You would point that out to your 3-year-old. Yeah. Oh, look, it's a big green tractor. And obviously, everyone around me was like in their mid-40s going, right. And I went, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, I just forgot where I was then.
But I think that's a gift, though, because you do become more observational about what is around you. And I think you're more in the now when you have got children and babies, because you are giving them lessons. You're teaching them, in effect. And I think that observational skills, because you're always looking to give them attention or raise their awareness to something or help them. That gets lost. So I love the fact that you pointed out to a group of older people, there's a big green tractor. And it's like, yes, but that's what comes. We forget that we get excited by that. I mean, I think parents, bring in your observational skills, because you're super good at it. And just because you're suddenly in a suit or back at work or at a desk, bring it in, because it creates conversation, connection, familiarity. People feel like you do notice and care. So I think, keep calling it out.
Yeah, nice link. And the amount of people that come on sessions now saying they want it to be a fun day, know. So it's, I think that's, that's brilliant. A fun day without the need to cook fish fingers at the end of the day, please. That would be nice. So let's start to wrap up, because it's been the most wonderful mini-series looking at working parents. How do you make the balance work? It's always been a hot topic, but even more so as we navigate this post-pandemic environment of hybrid working, and we have this promise of technology enabling us to have everything whenever we want it. But there are some realities that behind the scenes, it takes a lot of effort and care and attention, and not just from the immediate caregivers, but from that support network around.
Absolutely.
Debs, what would be something that you would say as a call to action for anyone listening for whom confidence and self-belief, not just from a working parent perspective, but if there's been any life-changing event and you're wanting to shift on to the next phase and evolve, what would be your call to action?
Oh, well, I've got 3, because I know you like the power of 3, Laura.
Yes. Mummy pig, daddy pig, Peppa pig.
Exactly.
No, sorry,
3 bowls of porridge. That's why they do it. 3 little pigs. But, it's the power of 3. So I would say my reflection questions, if you're listening to this, would be these 3 really simple reflections that, as you said, you can apply at any point. So the first one is this. So what am I doing better than I give myself credit for? That would be my first reflection question. And then the second one would be, what would someone who loves me say about me? And the third one was, what would I tell a friend feeling the way I feel today? Because absolutely, the chances you'd offer them, far more from a position of compassion, because that last question is you're asking them, so you're being very compassionate and kind to them. But what about asking yourself some of these questions as well and be, self-compassionate, show yourself some love and kindness, really.
Oh, Debs, I love that. And what I love about the stuff that we cover on our podcast is, these are all skills to help us thrive and maximise our potential in the ever-evolving
100%.
world of work. And, life isn't static. There'll be different life phases that we find ourselves in, even if not directly around us with colleagues. And this enables us to be able to navigate that together. And those three questions, I'm thinking that's really handy to be able to talk maybe to a struggling teenager.
Yeah,
these are the coaching questions that can happen, that are helpful in all kind of realms. So I think my share the secret would be, if you've got a mate or a colleague with whom has expressed the fact that they are having a bit of a confidence setback at the moment, and whether it's linked to parenting or not, any kind of key life change, get them to listen to this, because even knowing, as we've had from some of our clips, that this is a topic that impacts a lot of us. It's human to sometimes have some of these wobble moments, but it's how progress yourself forward. That is the power of being able to either self-coach or coach someone else. So, Debs, of course, what this means is we are going to be heading towards a new topic.
Oh, yes, we are. Oh, my goodness, I can't believe how quickly that's gone.
I know. So we're super excited to be working on that, and then all will be revealed when we have our next 4-part mini-series looking at our next topic. So can't wait with that. In the meantime, Debs, thank you for all of the amazing wisdoms that you've brought as ever. I think those 3 questions are just really great ones to reflect, when you've had a tough day, whether it links directly to this topic or not. I think they're really useful.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a pleasure. We could talk about it for ages. And it's really sort of reminded me how important parents are in role modelling to their offspring, how to be a great human. And I think, never underestimate, I think, as parents or carers or whoever might be there, people really close to that young person, is the impact you have on them. You are their role models, and, spend time with them, be observational with them, make sure that you're having great conversations with them, because, that's the bit that's going to help them in their life when they get back into work. So it starts with the parents. So I would say it's a privileged position to be in. And I know not everybody is in that privileged position but we can still impact on those young children, babies, youngsters going through school. We still have a major part to play, whether they're ours or not.
Absolutely. It takes a community. It takes a village. It does. So, Debs, have a wonderful week. Love you lots.
Love you too.
See you
and
at
I'll
the
look
other
after me
side.
Shakira hips.
Yes.
See you on the other side, though, Laura. Love you.
Bye, darling. Love you. Bye. Bye. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at contact@secretsfromacoach.com or follow us on Insta or Facebook. If you're a Spotify listener, give us a rating, as it's easier for people to find us. And if you want to know more, visit our website, www.secretsfromacoach.com, and sign up for our newsletter. Here to cheer you on and help you thrive in the ever-changing world of work.